Now, we've all been bombarded with them for months now. Emails from companies asking to keep your details so they can communicate with you in the future. Well, GDPR, or the General Data Protection Regulation, is a set of new rules from the EU that govern how companies can collect, keep and use our data. And today was the deadline for businesses. Well, Kate Bevan is the computing editor for Which magazine? She's here with me now. Kate, really good to see you. How significant is this?
It's actually quite a big deal. I mean, in some ways, it's not going to be much of a change for businesses because if they were compliant with previous rules, they'd be compliant with GDPR. But it's a real step forward in terms of what businesses are required to do with putting data security front and centre. So it's really important. It's a big move.
Do you think a £20 million fine is enough to focus the minds of these businesses?
Do you know what? We're not going to see £20 million fines. We're really not. And the ICO, the Data Protection Regulator in the UK, is actually on record as saying, you know, we are in the business of helping people be compliant, not hitting them hard with huge fines. And under the old rules, the maximum fine was £500,000. I think only one person ever got fined that, one organisation. So we're not going to be seeing enormous fines.
Interesting how to go on Twitter later on, got asked all these different questions. I mean, what does this mean for the consumer ultimately?
It means you've got more control over your data. It means you've got more rights to ask an organisation what they hold on you, to ask them to delete your data, and also to give you your data so that you can take it somewhere else or just take it out of the system altogether.
What about the small businesses? Because presumably there's going to be a lot to do, a lot to get your head around in terms of the law and how it applies to them. Big businesses will have their big teams, their legal advice and all of those. What about the small businesses?
Well, they've had 2 years. I mean, today is the day the rules come into effect, but actually GDPR took effect 2 years ago. There's been a sunset period of the old Data Protection Act coming out of force. So today isn't day one. We've known about this coming for a long time. I've been writing about this since 2012, so it's been a long time coming. So I'm not massively sympathetic if people haven't got their act together yet.
Is this a victory for you, would you say?
It's certainly the culmination of the last 6 years of my life in many ways. Victory, yes. I mean, it's good for consumers. It's really good for consumers.
I mean, moving forward, in terms, because we heard from the Information Commissioner who said that it's not about getting fines of people.
No, exactly.
It's more about making sure that businesses stick to the rules. But they are potentially very big fines. Do you foresee a situation where, you know, one company may get stung with quite a hefty fine?
It's not impossible. I mean, Elizabeth Denham has said in a blog post that she's not going to be looking to impose those enormous fines on people. But, you know, if you get a really egregious data breach, you might do. I mean, TalkTalk got fined £500,000 when it was held up as an example by the ICO, as it were. But it's unusual to get huge fines. But, you know, maybe one of the regulators in the EU will suddenly say, OK, it's time to make an example of these people.
Do you think there's been an imbalance between the relationship of the consumer and the business? And if that is the case, does that readdress that balance?
Yes, it does. As I say, it gives you much more power over your own data, the power to ask what they're holding about you and the power to say, you know, I don't want you to hold this data on me anymore. It's a real shift and it's an important one.
So what happens next?
I think we'll see a lot of reports of data breaches, actually, because one of the new things is a strict requirement on reporting data breaches. In the past, it was kind of voluntary, but now I think you'll hear a lot more about people saying there's been a data breach, there's been a data breach. And I think that might be quite alarming because the requirement is now to report within 72 hours of finding a breach. 72 hours isn't long enough to find out exactly how many people have been affected, what the impact is. So I think there'll be some quite scary headlines about data breaches for a while.
Do you think the Information Commissioner's office has the resources in order to be able to stay on top of all of this and all these businesses?
Well, probably not, actually. I mean, the office has always been slightly under-resourced, to say the least, and they've had some high-profile things like Cambridge Analytica to investigate. So I hope this will encourage governments to fund regulators better.
OK, interesting talking to you. Kate, thanks for coming in. Good to see you.